Welcome to this explainer. We usually just treat a total solar eclipse like a neat astronomical party trick, a fun reason to put on those funny glasses and look up at the sky for a few minutes. But today, we're diving deep into the incredible ways these phenomena have actually shaped human history. From superstition to hard science, the impact of the moon completely blocking the sun goes far, far deeper than just a temporary twilight. It's genuinely altered the course of human civilization.
So what actually happens when the sun just disappears? For us today, it's a beautiful spectacle. We know exactly when it's coming, down to the millisecond. But I want you to imagine being alive thousands of years ago. The sudden, totally unannounced plunging of the world into temporary daytime darkness wasn't exactly a photo op. It was a matter of life, death, and destiny. It sparked profound psychological terror and completely altered how humanity behaved in an absolute instant.
Wars literally end. Kings fall. Science takes these massive leaps forward. The historical record shows us that these sudden moments of darkness have acted as massive global catalysts for our species. When the sky changed, human history was forced to change right along with it. We didn't just passively watch these events, we reacted to them in ways that toppled empires and pushed the boundaries of our understanding.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the power of eclipses, move into myths, monarchs, and dragons, explore how sudden darkness literally stopped wars, look at unlocking the universe, and wrap up with our final takeaway.
Starting off with Section 1, the power of eclipses, from neat phenomenon to historical catalyst. Moving into Section 2, myths, monarchs, and dragons, a look at humanity's earliest reactions to the darkness.
Now, keep in mind the physical events we're looking at are absolutely identical to what happens today. The daytime sky just suddenly goes dark. But without modern astronomy to explain celestial mechanics, the human reaction was sheer, unadulterated terror. Over in ancient China around 2134 BCE, an eclipse wasn't seen as a predictable orbit. No, it was seen as a literal monster attack. There was widespread, genuine panic that a massive dragon was actively swallowing the sun whole. And this wasn't just some abstract story. The stakes were literal life and death. During that 2134 BCE eclipse, the royal astrologers, guys named Hasi and Ho, totally failed to predict the event. And because of that disastrous mistake, the kingdom was left entirely unprepared to perform their rituals and beat their drums to fight off this dragon. The emperor's response was brutal and absolute. He had Hasi and Ho executed. The cosmos literally dictated politics in the royal court. Jumping forward thousands of years to 1133 CE, we see this monumental, kind of tragic coincidence. A beautifully timed total eclipse perfectly aligned with King Henry I of England leaving for Normandy. He died shortly after this event. And because we humans are hardwired to find patterns even where none exist, this single cosmic coincidence fueled a massive superstition across European society that eclipses were divine omens directly predicting the inevitable fall of kings. But history isn't just one long string of superstitions. We actually see a revolutionary shift toward objectivity in 632 CE in Medina. An eclipse perfectly coincided with a deeply tragic event, the death of the Prophet Muhammad's young son. People immediately started claiming the sky itself was mourning the loss, but Muhammad explicitly shut that down, stating clearly, "The sun and moon are signs of God and do not eclipse for the birth or death of any mortal." This was a crucial, groundbreaking moment. It really kicked off the vital process of separating the physical mechanics of the universe from human emotions. Section 3. Stopping Wars in Darkness, when the cosmos dictated geopolitics. So this intense awe and terror didn't just rattle kings and prophets, it literally altered global geopolitics. Picture this intense scene from 585 BCE. A fierce, incredibly bloody conflict is raging between the Lydians and the Medes in modern-day Turkey. Suddenly, the event known as the Eclipse of Thales strikes. Total, impenetrable daytime darkness falls right in the dead center of combat, blinding both sides in the heat of battle. 6. That is the exact number of years this brutal war had been raging. 6 long years of relentless, exhausting, hand-to-hand fighting between two incredibly powerful factions brought to an absolute standstill in a matter of minutes. And this perfectly illustrates the sheer psychological grip these events had on the human mind. Interpreting this terrifying, unexplainable midday night as an unmistakable sign of divine anger, both armies just dropped their weapons.
They completely abandoned a 6-year war and frantically forged a peace treaty right there in the dirt on the battlefield. I mean, that is the very real geopolitical power of the sun disappearing.
Section 4, Unlocking the Universe, Using the Darkness to See the Light.
Okay, so as our scientific understanding slowly evolved, we finally stopped reacting with sheer panic. Instead of running from an imaginary dragon or thinking the gods were angry, we started using eclipses as a giant universe-sized laboratory. In a surprisingly short window of time, from 1860 in Spain to 1868 in India and globally in 1919, deliberately observing the eclipsed sun allowed us to crack the code of the universe in 3 world-changing ways. Let's look at the first massive leap: solar prominences. Those are the massive fiery gas plumes extending way out from the sun's surface. For the longest time, scientists couldn't prove if those fiery anomalies actually belonged to the moon passing by, or if they were coming from the sun itself. But in 1860, astronomer Warren de la Rue successfully photographed an eclipse and provided the very first hard, photographic proof that these towering plumes absolutely belong to our star.
Just 8 years later, in 1868, an eclipse over India gave us something even crazier. Astronomer Jules Janssen was carefully analyzing the solar spectrum in the darkness and spotted this mysterious, incredibly bright yellow line. It was totally unprecedented. It didn't match any known element on Earth. Think about how wild that is for a second, an entirely new element hiding right there in the sun's light. They named it after Helios, the Greek sun god, giving humanity the discovery of helium. We literally discovered an element in space before we ever found it on our own planet.
Then, the ultimate scientific mic drop happened in 1919. Sir Arthur Eddington used the perfect darkness of a total eclipse to photograph background stars. Stars you normally can't see at all because they're blinded by daylight. By carefully analyzing these photos, he observed how the incredibly massive gravity of the sun literally bent the starlight passing by it. The stars appear to have actually shifted position. That exact fleeting alignment provided the very first concrete experimental proof for Albert Einstein's mind-bending general theory of relativity. The temporary darkness literally proved Einstein right.
Section 5, the final takeaway. From fear to physics.
We've seen a completely staggering evolution here. Eclipses started out as these terrifying apocalyptic events that triggered ancient executions and birthed deep royal superstitions. Then, the sheer, undeniable awe of that sudden darkness proved powerful enough to halt a bitter 6-year war with an instant peace treaty. And finally, as fear gradually turned into insatiable curiosity, eclipses provided the exact, precise scientific conditions we needed to prove relativity and discover brand new elements hiding in the light. The universe literally had to plunge us into temporary darkness just so we could truly see the light. We went from fighting imaginary dragons in the sky to unlocking the absolute, fundamental secrets of gravity, which leaves us with one incredibly thrilling question to ponder the next time the sky goes dark. What will the next eclipse reveal?